of California are famous for being among the tallest trees in the world. There is one redwood in California recorded at 115 metres. The tallest flowering tree species in the world is Eucalyptus regnans, known as mountain ash in Victoria and swamp gum in Tasmania. There is one species a few kilometres from Hobart that is 101 metres tall. Aptly named Centurion, this particular swamp gum is estimated to be around 400 years old and is the tallest flowering plant and hardwood tree in the world. One of the greatest physiological challenges for tall trees is how to draw water and nutrients from the roots to the canopy. This requires many kilograms of water to be lifted through vertical distances of up to 50 to 100 metres up the trunk of the tree against the force of gravity. Water transport in vascular plants. While multicellular plants do not possess all of the same systems that animals do, they have specialised cells that make up tissues with specific functions to assist with their survival. The individual cells are organised into tissues, such as clusters of photosynthetic cells, which form the organs, such as the leaf, of the plant body. Each of these tissues is specialised to perform important functions that support the life of the organism. These include obtaining energy, producing organic compounds, distributing materials, removing waste and exchanging gases. In a vascular plant, specialised cells and tissues distribute organic compounds, water, minerals and gases around the plant. Vascular tissue is involved in the transport of substances in plants. The structure of vascular tissue ensures that each organ, the leaves, stems, roots and flowers and seeds, receives what it needs. The organs are grouped into systems. In plants there are two systems, the shoot system and the root system. The shoot system is comprised of all the parts of the plant found above the ground. It is responsible for the transportation of resources, the absorption of oxygen and carbon dioxide, reproduction and carrying out photosynthesis in leaves. And the root system is below ground and is responsible for absorbing water and nutrients from the soil. Obtaining water can be a challenge to many organisms. Autotrophs, such as plants, are generally immobile. Unlike animals, which can move to find water, plants require a local water supply. With the exception of algae and aquatic plants, plants obtain their water through the roots from soil. Life in a terrestrial environment necessitates a root system to obtain water and a specialised transport system of vascular tissue to move the water from the roots to the leaves. Water is absorbed initially by the roots and moves against the pull of gravity up through the stem to the leaves. When we look at how that occurs, we find the plant is best serviced by a one-way water movement system, the xylem. Vascular tissue is composed of two different types of tissues, xylem and phloem. Phloem is composed of thin-walled cells that transport sugars in the form of sucrose and other plant products from one part of the plant to another. Xylem is responsible for the transport of water along with nutrients and minerals absorbed from the soil through the root system. It is made up of two types of cells, tracheids and vessel elements. And they're shown in figure 3.2. These tissues consist of tubular, elongated cells that allow water to pass freely. As xylem cells mature, they die, leaving behind hollow cells supported by the remaining cell wall. The cell walls contain a strong substance called lignin, which is one of the most abundant organic polymers on Earth. The hollow cells of xylem are ideally suited to the transport of water. The dead xylem tissue forms the woody part of many plant stems. Wood is composed entirely of xylem tissue and provides the main support for most large plants such as trees. The root system. So how does the water in the ground reach the uppermost leaves of the plant? Some of the leaves can be more than 100 metres above the ground. Part of the answer lies hidden below ground in the plant's root system. Sometimes the root system is larger than the plant's entire shoot system. The roots of a plant have several functions. They absorb water and minerals from the soil, support and anchor the plant, and in many plants they are the main storage tissue. As well as anchoring the plant, the roots provide the surface through which water is taken up. This surface area is greatly increased by the presence of thousands of root hairs along the tip of the root. A plant's root hairs provide an enormous surface area across which water is absorbed. This can be up to 130 times greater than the surface area of its shoot system. And you can have a look at the diagram there explaining how this happens. Each root hair is a slender extension of each root epidermal cell that makes up the epidermis. These extensions increase the surface area for water absorption. The root hairs penetrate between the soil particles and are immersed in the soil water. The water can easily move from the soil into the epidermal cell through its cell wall and plasma membrane. The root hairs are generally found just behind the root tip. Here they take up water 6 times faster than regions that are further back along the root. Beneath the epidermis, large thin-walled parenchyma cells make up the main root body. In the centre there is a core of vascular tissue that consists of several groups of xylem cells made of lignin, between which there are distinct groups of phloem cells. The vascular tissues are arranged in such a way that as the root grows into the soil, the vascular tissue also extends down the centre of the root, enabling the transportation of materials. These two tissues have distinctive parts to play in transporting materials, and in many plants they also strengthen the root system. Water and dissolved minerals enter the root from the soil by the process of osmosis in the case of water molecules, and by diffusion and active transport in the case of dissolved ions. Once inside the root hair, the water moves into the parenchyma cells and into the xylem vessel via the pits in the cell walls. The force of the water entering the root and pushing its way into the cells creates pressure. This is shown in figure 3.4. If the stem of the plant is severed, the cut will exude copious amounts of water for some time. This suggests that there is a force pushing water up the stem from the roots. This force is known as root pressure and was discovered by Stephen Hales in 1727. Hales found that root pressure could be responsible for raising... Sorry, Steph, my dogs are going off. I'm going to read over the top of them. Oi, stop it! This suggests that there is a force pushing the water up the stem. Hales found that root pressure could be responsible for raising water to a height of over 6.4 metres in a vine. This forces water into the plant and works to ensure that the water and minerals reach the vascular tissue of the stem. There are, in fact, more processes involved in moving water from root to leaves than just root pressure. Recall. In plants there are two systems, the root system and the shoot system. Vascular tissue is involved in the transport of substances in plants. Xylem is a water-conducting tissue composed of tracheids and vessels. Phloem tissue transports sugar and other plant products around the plant. Root hairs increase the surface area for water absorption. Water and dissolved minerals enter the root from the soil by the process of osmosis in the case of water molecules and diffusion and active transport in the case of dissolved ions.